So, everyone, what is cruelty? Now, my observations on cruelty are subjective. Now, when I was younger, years back, I learned about cruelty through my own experience of it, through my own feeling of it, through my own realization that I was cruel. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but later on I did realize it. Now, cruelty exists in the world as a kind of plague, of course, a kind of um, hatred that we adopt towards everything that isn't us, that isn't on the same side of us, and we often view it as, when we're cruel, uh, the result of how other people act. But in truth, cruelty is completely based off of a self-hatred, a hatred that goes deep into who we are, deep into what we choose to be. When we view our actions as being self-preservative, most of the time when we are cruel, that is enough. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the fact that together as a united people, as somebody who is nice to other people, who is kind to other people, cruelty is proven to be inadequate. Inadequate as a mindset, inadequate as a tactic to achieve any goal. When we try to achieve our goals by being cruel, it's never like, okay, I'm going to be cruel to it to get this, to get that. It's always, well, you know what? Screw everybody else, because everybody else is selfish just like I am. Everybody else goes after what they want like I do. So I need to look out for number one, and the number one is always ourself when we are cruel. Now, in my case, I wanted many things, and I gained many things, and stole many things, for instance, because I did not care about other people. I did not see how other people would be affected, how other people would be brought down by my actions, because I didn't care to see how they would be brought down. I didn't care to see how they would experience my cruelty. And there's a variety of reasons that I was this way. I wasn't medicated. I'm schizophrenic. I wasn't medicated. I was very depressed. I didn't feel a sense of purpose. And a sense of purpose is very important for anyone. And if somebody doesn't have a sense of purpose, it's likely that they will go towards a negative direction in their lives, whether it be a selfish direction or whether it be a completely cold, uncaring direction that completely feeds off of a lack of emotion instead of the emotion. Now, love and compassion, that feeds off of positive emotion, but cruelty feeds off of the cold absence of emotion. Now, cruelty will continue to expand in our lives if we make it takes many decisions, but every little decision basically puts us in a place where cruelty is okay to us. And there's a lot of different reasons that people cite within themselves, not necessarily other people, as to why their cruelty is okay. Revenge, hatred. These people aren't people. Even these animals aren't valuable. And that a lot of the time I see a survivalistic instinct that, okay, I have to look out for number one, like I said, or somebody else will step on me and destroy me. Whether it be societally, physically, not a lot of the time, but usually symbolically. And when we look ourselves in the mirror a lot of the time when we are cruel people, we tend to find image looking back at us that we don't really recognize, because we never really think of ourselves as cruel when we're cruel. We always think of ourselves as basically just another part of this terrible food chain of power. But when we look at ourselves in the mirror, there are always glints of who we are deep within, and who we are deep within is always screaming when we're cruel. It always desires connection. It always values other people deep inside of our soul. And the only way that we can justify cruelty is kind of coding all of our reasons and ego, and basically manipulating ourselves into believing these reasons that we have to do this or that we have to be cruel. And we, like I said, rarely describe it as cruelty. But what I would highly suggest in your life, there's very varying magnitudes of cruelty. It's not just like good, evil. The vast majority of people are in between. Aren't completely selfish and not completely caring. There's a lot of magnitudes. But I would highly suggest you look at yourself and say, okay, why am I mistreating this person when you mistreat somebody? Is it out of revenge? Is it because they mistreated me? Is it because they were trying to gain something and I'm going to stop them, or I'm trying to gain something and it requires this a level of cruelty? And just analyze your actions towards other people. Look at yourself and look at other people and say, why am I doing this? Why are they doing that? That can combat cruelty, because even the most basic of logic, even the most basic of people who aren't incredibly intelligent or good at analyzing themselves, if you ask yourself seriously, why am I doing this? When you start doing something that is negative towards another human being and you view it as negative, because a lot of the time cruelty is self-aware to the extent that you realize you're doing something negative. Now, as to the why, that's where you can get your foot in the door against cruelty, by asking, why am I doing this? But this has just been kind of a rant on cruelty, and I used to be a cruel person years back. I used to not care about anybody. I used to just try to gain what I wanted. You could say that I used women. These are all during my teen years, and before I was medicated. I used women. I stole what I wanted. I did what I wanted in a lot of cases, and I was not a good person. Now, I actively combat this cruelty that is still a tiny force in me. Like, I recognize that state of mind that I was a part of, but I don't have or allow any control to it. I don't allow it to control me anymore, and that little piece of me, a little dark piece, has grown smaller and smaller, and now it only is allowed to control me if I allow it to, and I don't. So I hope that this kind of helps you understand cruelty and why people are cruel, and maybe makes you question some of your actions. We're not all perfect. I'm not completely uncruel. I'm sure that you're not completely uncruel, but there are little cruelties that we participate in. Just ask why. Always ask yourself, why am I being cruel to this person? Am I being cruel to this person? Because a lot of time you realize it's a negative action. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this was informative in some way, and I look forward to talking to all of you in the future.